everybody. This is Alicia, Liz, and Ann, and we are Servant Decoded, and we are very excited to be here to talk about Season 3, Episode 6, Fish of Servant. Hi, guys. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Hey, you know.
Hey, yeah, that's pretty accurate. Liz?
I'm good.
It was good.
Trying to sort through the chaos in my head.
Yeah. I feel bad because every week I try to come up with some, deep analysis of the title of the episode, and this week I've got nothing.
Well,
It's just called fish.
yeah, no, he serves the fish and he explains, like, oh, it's like a plain, clean, simple thing. And, the connection to this symbology that tied to Christianity. It's not always, it's not always very complex, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be simple.
Which is not, not entirely fair, but, that's fine.
So yeah, I think that the Christianity and religious allusions really came into play through a lot of the episode. One of the things that I really took note of pretty immediately was when we opened and we see Sean in the window, and the wallpaper behind him is, looks like crosses, and the window and the way it's framed looks like a cross, and he's praying and his eyes are closed. I think I remember mentioning last season that I feel like we would wake up from him sleeping quite a bit. And so, one of my theories has been that a lot of this is from his perspective, not from Dorothy's. And this episode is kind of the same thing, except we're waking up from his prayers instead of him sleeping. So I thought that was interesting. It happened a couple times.
Talked about the fact that Dorothy and Leanne, to an extent, tend to dress for the house. Like Dorothy will wear prints that match the wallpaper.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought it was cool that the crosses are behind Sean.
Yeah, I agree. So he's praying, and then we cut to him reading a book to Jericho. I think we had some pretty, I don't know, obvious storytelling, maybe not storytelling, or subtext that came out when he was talking about the black sheep, and he tells Jericho that he's not the black sheep. And later on, when him and Dorothy are talking, she says she's a little lamb, and he says, "You're not a lamb, you're the wolf." So I thought, maybe we should be writing this down if everybody's going to get cast into a part. Right. So my take on that was that, and we discussed this beforehand as well, but that Sean is the lamb of God, now that he is pious Sean. Dorothy is the wolf because he told her she was. So, okay, Dorothy's the wolf.
She's also vicious in her nature.
Yeah. And I felt like Julian was the black sheep.
I think that tracks pretty well.
Yeah.
One could also argue that Leanne is the black sheep.
True.
Wanting so badly to be a part of this family. Not a part of, but.
Or is she a wolf in sheep's clothing as well?
Right.
So yeah, so a lot of really interesting religious allusions in this episode. I mean, it happens through the series in general, but it definitely was pretty prominent this episode.
We'll get more of the religious stuff towards the middle of the episode.
Yes.
That I can.
One of the things that I think the show does purposefully is they walk the line quite a bit between supernatural and real trauma.
Every time. I mean, there's tons of real trauma for sure. Yeah. They try to make excuses for seemingly coincidental things that happen.
Right. And so I felt like that. Obviously it came up this episode in the flashbacks that we got to see of what really happened in the park. But also just the trauma that happened last season between Dorothy and Leanne. I'm sure many people noticed that when we see Dorothy and she's gardening, she is calling for Leanne, and she's standing in the doorway, and we see her right hand is sort of caked in dirt, and the shot is almost identical to the shot of her in 2 o'clock from season 2, after she had buried Leanne. I don't know. What do you make of like a mirror shot like that? Do you think that that's meant to be, I don't know, symbolic? Is it meant to make us remember that? Is it part
It's,
of some weird time loop in this? Like what are your thoughts on why they would place something like that there?
I mean, it's thematic. It's like a thematic like callback for sure. I don't know if it's like referencing something specific because I mean it is specific that she tried to bury her and I guess be rid of her. And now she's like planting something new and giving something life or giving something a chance at life. She even says you have to rip it up for it to grow a little bit. And just in the moment right now, it seems like, she beat the hell out of her and then tried to bury her. And now she's flourishing. Not because she did that, but that's what happened. And then she's telling her, like, oh, if you rough up the roots, like it takes better. Like, and she's like sharing the like
I love that.
lesson with her. I'm not sure what the beyond the like
No,
obvious
I think
connection. I'm not sure what.
that's a fantastic interpretation.
I like the points there. We were talking right before we started to record about that gardening scene. When they are gardening, they're planting petunias. And so I looked up, the symbolism of the flower petunia.
Mhm.
It's an ornamental, superficial flower. Just interesting that they're planting this kind of superficial flower. Also, petunias symbolize anger and resentment for past slights or
Oh, another little.
so again, like the burying, but then they also represent comfort and kind of like a safe space or a safe landing.
Like a home or a family.
Exactly.
Right.
Which they, and Dorothy's being much more maternal with Leanne these days, as opposed to burying her and beating her. So I think it all kind of ties in together well.
What a loaded gardening session.
Right?
So much in like maybe like half a minute. Oh, maybe a minute.
But they did a lovely job of playing the awkwardness, and that
Mhm.
we see Dorothy's hands in the dirt, and to me she was remembering what she did, and
Mhm.
some guilt there, and you could see that, and it was almost like she wanted to apologize, but her pride
Or her memory.
or her memory, or again the trauma, like what things has she blocked out.
Right.
We
Just
learned in
like
this episode that she doesn't even remember that Sean was on Gourmet Gauntlet, like at all.
right.
So yeah, I did wonder too, does she remember that she did that to Leanne? Or is she just in this moment with her hands in the dirt and she has like a sense memory of that? Like her body is remembering it. Remember,
She
I don't know.
doesn't.
And she said that before, that I feel like my body is telling me that like something is
Something's
wrong.
different. Yeah.
So perhaps that's what it was. Perhaps it wasn't a direct memory. Perhaps it was more of like a physical sense memory.
Right.
And, the body carries trauma. And we've seen Leanne, or we've seen Dorothy have these moments of, we call them kind of fugue states, where she's kind of lost in memory when memory's bubbling to the surface. Like when she opens the fridge in season 1 and she's kind of stopped, or when she's in the hot car and gets overwhelmed by the smell of whatever food Sean has let cooking in there and makes her sick. And I think just the sense memory of the hand in the dirt and being next to Leanne would bring up a repressed traumatic memory that isn't quite there, but she feels. Also with the gardening, I thought of note was that if Dorothy's remembering burying Leanne in that hole, we later see in the episode, after several episodes of ignoring that hole, Sean finally covering it up superficially, but with boards. Leanne comes down and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just, making a bridge. Pride cometh before a fall." I just thought it was interesting that, Dorothy may have that memory, and Sean's finally doing something about the, place where the incident occurred to cover it up.
That's a great point as well. Yeah. I feel like Sean sits in that dang basement staring at whatever's wrong in there like all the time.
It comes up quite a bit, yeah.
And I would love to know what that is symbolic of. Please, M. Night, tell us.
Why Leanne eats lunch down there. That's where George tried to build a pyre to burn her. I mean, I don't know if it's like a specific. And then there's the bubbling, and then the bugs last season.
Yeah, there's something to that I'm missing.
It seems like this season, though, it's become a place of almost meditation.
I mean, there were times like he'll sit there and drink wine and just stare at it.
No, it's a contemplative bubble. Cool.
So, but yeah, no, I love what you're saying about also just that falling in line with the gardening and the, just the event that happened and him trying to board that up. I did think that it was a little strange, like the reaction that they both had when he kind of fell into it.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on what was going on there?
Yeah, when we were kind of going over this, I posited that, because it was just so funny that Sean says, pride cometh before a fall, and then Leanne takes a step towards them, and Sean kind of startles and then falls in the water, and he's like, God damn it, Leanne.
Mm-hmm.
And she runs off. And I was wondering, was that a romantic moment that startled Sean, or an embarrassed Leanne, or was it a Leanne wanting to help and Sean got startled? And I couldn't get a good read on
me either
what occurred.
It seemed more to me like she was either trying to help or just maybe being playful
or too excited.
Yeah, just like in the way, and then you forget yourself physically, like at that age, or you're not totally like with your body that way. So maybe she like knocked him over trying to help, or she was just like she was just trying to be like amusing. Maybe I felt that other part of it later in the attic, like for sure. Well, not to jump ahead, but like when she like gets up and she's like, "No, that wasn't God," and like walks toward him. I was like, "Oh, she gonna kiss him now," but that didn't happen then either. Like it felt that way then, but not. I don't know. It didn't seem.
Why do you think that she is not telling Sean who it really was?
Gotta tune in next week. I think it was just well timed that way, and like this is like the most she's ever said about it.
Mm-hmm. It is
in a while. So I don't know that we're getting to something. I'm not sure if she's going to end up telling them though. At least
I saw it as I heard it as a flex. Like that wasn't God, dude. That was me. Like, come on. When are you going to recognize
I can see that
what
too.
I can do?
Well, not to mention that like she's done a lot of things.
She has done a lot of things.
So she's probably like, it's like she wants some credit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But do they know she's done a lot of things? Because everything has an obvious explanation. And, I guess you can assume that their perspective is the obvious explanation, other than, the glaring issue of this is maybe not a baby.
We don't know what it is.
Right.
The other thing that's really interesting as we're talking through this, and we've been making note of this, I think, each week, is that it seems to get a bit choppier as it goes along, where we'll be in one scene and then we just really do a quick cut to another scene, and it didn't feel like there was a resolution or a transition.
Yeah, all of my notes I was writing, cut to.
So I think that's interesting too. Is that meant to be kind of like we remember things in fragments, because it's clearly increasing as the story unfolds.
It's very different, yeah.
And I wonder if that's a function of we're getting towards the end of the season and the end of the show, so we have to move things along, or is it some sort of timey-wimey thing where we're getting a better sense of time being out of place?
If the whole intention, because like everybody loves to be like, oh, we have 40 episodes, and there's like, was always supposed to be 40 episodes. If they start doing this now, it's either that they're just playing with formats of like this like tension and release, which is like a big thing this season. Like they're doing like scares differently, they're doing like drama differently a little bit. Like they're like let it go and be like bright for a while, and then everything's real dark and horrible. And like they keep playing with that. So I don't know if that's just like a stylistic choice or like something. I don't even know what that would be indicating.
No,
if they planned it, if you plan it to be so long, you don't just let me start ramping up the tensions now, or start like changing speeds. I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be both.
It feels purposeful, but maybe it's not. Yeah. Or like you said, maybe it's both.
Like maybe like it's supposed to feel nervous and jerky.
We're getting into more serious informational territory, so it would make sense that it would feel a little bit more like a roller coaster.
even characters feel like they're all a little bit all over the place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It does
I mean,
feel like, in the preview, one of them, it's like it was like the walls were closing in. I do feel that way.
mm-hmm.
I do think that's,
It's very claustrophobic.
yeah.
The other thing I noticed is however much everything matters, it seems like every other week, like they resolve so many things, and then it opens up into a new sort of like, wait, well, what is this now?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't even say that like I could predict what might be going on because it might not matter next week.
I think that things do matter. We're
No,
just
it's building. It's for sure building.
right that we're building. I'm satisfied with how the show is going. I
Oh, for
don't
sure.
think we're getting into superfluous, one mystery and then throw it away.
No, but it does feel like that
Sometimes, yeah.
because like there are a lot of threads.
It does, yeah.
I have faith though that we're gonna get to the end and it's all gonna come together and we're gonna go, aha. That's
I feel the same way for sure. It's really whoever's doing the pacing of it, excellent job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut again to Dorothy trying to get Leanne to go outside with her. And they go outside and it's spring and Leanne has this crazy big red jacket.
And Dorothy's hat and Jericho's hat.
Oh, the matching hats. God, what a
Matching hat. And the turquoise and the yellow, which are big colors this season. When we talk about like all of the wording of things, I just loved it when Dorothy's standing there and she says, I can literally hear you not breathing.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those wonderful little clues.
Dorothyism.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going with the everybody's dead theory or reborn. Thank you.
Sure.
I feel like that's certainly a pretty direct nod to it. So that made me laugh.
It's just funny anyway. It's like,
yeah. Oh, you know what? Something else I noticed?
What's up?
When Dorothy was going through the camera, she was looking for what really happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That night.
Yeah, she was wearing a pretty big ring on her middle finger of her right hand as well. And so it was a very similar shot to like Julian when he's doing it in his ring. So I thought that was interesting in my quest for what the heck group these Turners belong to. Oh, well, Mannequin Watch. So
Mannequin Watch.
Oh boy.
Big week for the Mannequin.
Big week. Big Mannequin week.
big stuff happened in the attic.
So I can confirm that Mannequin Lady's hands were in normal mannequin form up until this episode.
Is that so?
I did look. I took screenshots.
Mm.
And when Leanne was scared and she was like cowering in the room, the mannequin was turned directly out to the street and its fingers were adjusted into a sign.
It did the cult finger symbol that means, what is it, like
the three?
It's an old religious symbol. Yeah, one finger pointed towards the Holy Spirit, one towards, I forget what it means, but it's the cult finger hand symbol. Yeah.
Yes.
And that the mannequin last week, the head was looking out the window, and this week the entire body is towards the window, as you noted.
Someone's moving, yeah.
So I don't know. What do we think that means? Is the cult trying to, like, was that a clue for us to know that, like, the cult members, because we did learn that those homeless youth, that they used to be cult members. So we did get an answer there, which is great.
I wonder if in Leanne's panicked state, if she reverted back to, the cult for safety or protection, some aspect of cult life, the hand thing as a protective ward. I mean, I pictured Dorothy, moving the mannequin, like, you're going to look out the window and watch out for danger. And now you're going to do this little hand symbol to help keep me safe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it means. Either. I don't know, but I saw it, as did many other people.
That's all that matters.
So
we'll figure it out later.
I was right. I saw it and I was right. That's all that matters.
That's all we need.
We've got Sean and Julian in the kitchen, which is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
And Julian is slurping up some spaghetti.
No, Vera. Why? Who knows?
Who knows?
Not mine.
Because his girlfriends come and go. Who the heck knows?
It's
That one.
so succinct and so Julian. Like, no, Vera. Why? Who knows? Not mine, reader.
This scene brought us the runner-up for the Julian line of the week, which incidentally is also a song lyric. I wish I was a baller. I wish I was a little bit taller.
Yeah. I'd never expected that. But there it is. I guess he's like the right age for.
And then as he slurps up his spaghetti and he says to Sean, keep a lid on it. Ha ha ha, which is ironic because shortly thereafter, Nancy eats spaghetti and pulls a hair out of her mouth. So
why is Nancy eating the leftover spaghetti? I mean, I understand he gave it to her, but why would you, as a person, like, I saw somebody eat from this? And again, with the hair.
Yeah. And, I took the hair to mean, something that doesn't belong, like infiltrator, like in the, the other episode.
Yeah.
Like in the soup, yeah.
With Nancy not belonging in the house, at least according to Leanne and Dorothy, to an extent.
We also know this isn't the first time hair has been found. The hair has been repeatedly found throughout the series, and a mysterious hair. Curious about that. With Leanne, yeah,
Same here.
The random Wanda hair. I'm assuming it was Wanda, but who the F knows? It could be somebody else.
And they couldn't find Leanne's hair at all.
And then Leanne's hair found.
When you're looking for hair, you can't find it. And when you don't want it, it shows up in your foods, in your compote.
In your compote, and your soup, on your vanity. There's one other one that I'm not remembering, but I know it happened. So I do wonder what that's about. I wonder whose hair it is. With the soup, I just assumed it was Dorothy's wig, but at this point, now that it's happened again,
I don't think that was actually. I don't know. I thought that too, though they didn't really say that. Now that it seems like it's going to be.
It's got to be something else.
It might be a theme. I'm not sure to what yet, but it might come up again. We should look for
that.
that.
But remember it, because there's got to be a reason, even if we don't know what that reason is yet.
Figure it out.
Leanne, I was really acting like a teenager this episode, didn't y'all think?
Yeah, like a petulant teen.
Very off put by Nancy, because Nancy's son.
Not happy with what's going on. And the way that Sean, especially Sean, spoke to her was like a father. They're like, knock it off. And Leanne.
Yeah, they're falling into those roles.
Do you want to go to your room? I don't think so.
Grace.
Nancy was going to say Grace. Chomp. That was my favorite.
And he was very concerned that Leanne's beliefs were different. I noticed that the second time I watched it when she says I'm not spiritual anymore, or religious anymore, and he's like, since when?
Yeah.
He's certainly bothered by that, and she says, since I stopped believing in make believe, I guess.
Well, but Sean and Leanne have always been buddies. They've had their relationship, their special kind of father-daughter bonding. So I can Sean would be kind of hurt and surprised that Leanne wouldn't share something so significant as that with him. And he doesn't know what she just went through. But as we were talking about this scene, we were positing that what we were seeing as sulky, petulant teen behavior was really Leanne masking her traumatized state and her immense fear, with her foot bouncing under the table. And interesting that Dorothy picked up on it. Dorothy, who's typically so oblivious, who's lately been more maternal with Leanne, was the one to pick up on it and investigate. Someone finally checked those damn cameras and figured out what happened, and is now paying more attention to Leanne. Whereas Sean's more focused on Nancy and his new hobby of going to church.
Oh, we forgot to talk about Jericho in the crib at the beginning with the noise machine.
That we both wrote
Yes.
I wrote in my notes, sounds like a heart monitor or a life support.
And I said life support. I said noise machine almost sounds like life support.
Yeah.
I thought it was an
sounded like
interesting choice.
It sounded like garbled baby speech to me for a little bit, but it's mostly, I don't know. That was hard to pinpoint too.
And why would that calm him down? Also,
it
wasn't shrieking, so I thought that was just, but I took that just to be Dorothy exaggerating and being funny.
exactly.
But obviously he wasn't shrieking. He was
No, not at all.
In my notes, I wrote, along with the the odd choice of a white noise machine, I wrote, question mark, could they be like faking a real baby? The sound of a heart beating, or if that makes sense, like creating an atmosphere of a real baby, but it's not a real baby.
Sure. I think
and me going on a weird limb, but that was came to mind. The trappings of a child, including the noise that would sound like a heart beating, or
it was definitely strange. It was a strange choice.
Yeah. You don't just, she like throw, and then
about it too, like,
and then not to put it on a shelf or somewhere, like she just like put it in there with him. Like that was not, I mean, it's not like necessarily a dangerous thing, but like
you don't do that.
Yeah,
not really, no.
Yeah. Back to
the dinner party.
The dinner party, yes. So Sean came at this much more simply, according to him, with the way that he presented the fish, but he didn't know that she was
vegan. And what was it, like fish served 3 ways?
That's what he said. It didn't look any different, but that's what he said. Yeah.
If someone invites you to dinner, that would be an important thing to note. Quick note: I'm a vegan.
Right.
So you don't waste a bunch of fish.
Also, Dorothy looking at that plate of the fish, and she was staring at it for a minute as though there was something about it that was
like a memory.
A memory, right?
Mind. Yeah. So, I was saying earlier that throughout the season, there have been a number, it seems like every episode, someone says something that triggers the memory of the real Jericho, or
a little bit, yeah.
To her mind, or Jericho's death, that that dad is being picked at relentlessly.
Yeah.
And I think that we're seeing more and more that Dorothy is starting to remember and put the pieces into place.
There's that moment at the end watching the video, yeah.
And want to know like what's happening. Yeah, like you said, Hannah. So what do you guys make of Nancy? Do you feel like the animosity towards Nancy was coming from Leanne's PTSD, or do you think that Nancy was indeed like a danger, potentially trying to get in there? We know that like the cult was saying to her that she needs to return to him, and she said, I always knew I would return to him. So there was like language that was very similar to what the cult was saying. But do you guys feel like that's more of like Leanne's head and we're seeing her paranoia, or could that be actually legit?
I mean, I guess you're supposed to be able to take it both ways, but it seems more so that it's just coincidental language, because I mean, Nancy does suck, but she wasn't specifically, she didn't have anything pointed to say to Leanne like other people have this season that did maybe turn out to be sinister.
Right.
The way that it was shot, it makes it look as if Nancy's a malevolent presence.
Oh yeah, she's like total darkness.
Like Mr. Smiley, the same thing, right? Where it feels threatening.
But that could be like a perspective for sure. Like you see something and it's like that's all you see, and like, oh well, now I'm done. So whether it's real or you might just feel that way. Right,
because it was the same type of a camera shot. Yeah, exactly.
That was where I was going, was that I think that it was shot in a way to indicate that we're seeing it from Leanne's point of view, from her traumatized mind. And Nancy just happened to hit on the wrong phrase that sent Leanne back to that space.
Right.
She's already on edge. So yeah, I personally, I don't think that Nancy's, a cult member or means anyone any harm. Yeah, it was Leanne's POV that we were seeing heightened.
Right.
Did you guys think that there was a moment, because there's a lot of those moments where Leanne looks in somebody's eyes and their pupils dilate, and I don't know if anybody who is listening has seen M. Night's movie Devil, but it's a pretty good movie. And I was looking back over my notes just in general, and I made note that when in Devil, when the, I guess, devil is actually jumps from person to person. So it's not always in the same body.
Mm.
And so it's kind of unpredictable. And then I also made note in those notes that anytime it's occupying somebody's body, their eyes get really black momentarily when it starts to take over them. And so when I was reading people talking about people's eyes going black with Leanne and I went back and I was seeing them dilate, and all of the shifting, in terms of, like, 1 minute somebody's acting this way, but then suddenly we're going, okay, are they good? Are they bad? It made me wonder if perhaps there's some kind of, dark spirit, devil entity that's kind of moving through them in some way.
We've talked about an observation theory that the cult can see what's going on in the house from outside or from afar.
Right.
And I wondered if the cult, if, whoever he is, if he can, take over someone's body. And as you were saying, and then you see the dark eyes, if that's how they can monitor some of the stuff that's going on with Leanne.
Yeah.
And in the house, that would make sense. And that would go along with the goosebumps you mentioned, that like ghosts cause cold spots, supposedly, Nancy, goosebumps, are you cold?
And they made a point to show the goosebumps,
I thought that was kind of strange too, from like a first person perspective.
That's weird. It was a weird shot.
Because you could just say that.
I indicated that, like, we were supposed to see that I don't know. I look at that as a potential clue that there's a supernatural entity.
If that's meant to be taken that way, the only way I would take that is that may have been Leanne, like, reading into her. I don't know why you would need to, like, have her visual perspective to read her darkness. Yeah, I guess. Like her secret, like, shame or whatever you want to call that. Like, I don't know why you would need to actually physically be in the body, but if that's the extent of her power, maybe that's what that was showing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Again.
Or in her mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of, like, knowing of someone without knowing. I mean, this is an example, but there have been other examples too. Even if you think back to, I mean, there was always plausible deniability with this show.
Right. Always with everything.
But yeah, even down to, like, the way that Aunt Josephine talked to Dorothy, like, know what was happening within her.
But that could have been
Uncle
Leanne.
George too. I mean, Uncle George said things that
that's right.
Remember?
Yeah.
Like, what was, and yeah, that was probably the most similar.
But again, that could have been Leanne sharing information with them prior in a scene we didn't see. People have theorized on Reddit that Leanne knows how to use the computer, could have done a little Google search, and Nancy accused of elder abuse article pops up, and so she's got that ammo against her.
True.
Yeah, I mean, she does have a phone. That's not out of the realm of possibility.
But in the scene, it does appear as if she's pulling that bit of shame out of her to get her out of the house, this infiltrator.
Right.
We know that Nancy is Unitarian Universalism.
Right.
I'm gonna go, I guess, into too much depth on that. We couldn't find the chant.
I am you, you are you, we are you. Great, great, great. We're looking for the truth, all the time. Wow, retro, I like it.
No.
We are you are you.
I would hazard a guess that that's probably a real thing from somebody's experience, because it seems so specific and goofy churchy that it's probably, not to insult anybody, but, like, things like that, they do come up to have, like, these, like, rallying things. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I know.
Right. I agree.
It was so funny, Dorothy's recitation of that song, and she gave a little salute at the end, like,
yeah, And she tries to be so like, she's like, she thinks that's being inclusive and like accepting, but she's like, you're being an asshole. Like,
Yeah, she knows she's
don't.
being an asshole. She knows when she says that thing about the degree, like, oh, it's
Oh
quicker.
no,
for
that
you.
yeah, it's quicker. Good for you. No, that was great. But like, don't sing the song.
I feel like she sang the song to be like to specifically to either to make fun of her or to be like,
It was the way she said it. I know it's supposed to be sing songy, but she's like, oh, we're looking for the truth and like all this other like there are layers to that too. Then
but the comment to it being retro also just I
right.
think that's like another
That's what I would have thought too.
potential clue that she's tuned into a different time period.
And then I think we get the answer as to whether or not Dorothy was being a bitch. Julian.
The winner of the Julian line of the episode.
I have a master's in divinity. A master's? So much quicker. Good for you. Excuse me, I'll be right back.
Dorothy has a master's in wasp linguistics, and you just got roasted.
Dorothy has a master's in wasp linguistics. Love it.
Very funny.
Very funny.
Julian just getting more and more pleasure out of the party as it disintegrates. I've been Julian before, being at a dinner party that I didn't want to be at. And then as things get more chaotic, having so much fun just being a bystander and watching things fall apart.
The other thing that I felt when I was watching the dinner party, I don't know, sometimes the conversation just felt so disjointed, like we were jumping all over the place, but it stood out to me that 2011 was brought up.
Yes.
Yeah, well, so Julian says, Dorothy's forgotten my birthday 3 times. And her first comment is 2011 shouldn't even count. And then last fall, Blur, Baby Brain. And third one isn't referenced. But the 2011 one is what I found interesting when she said 2011 doesn't count. Who knows why? But we do know that according to the story, Leanne and Dorothy met on March 11th, 2011. 1111 is an angel number, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they met in 2011. So I wondered if also we saw all of those babies that Dorothy lost. So I thought perhaps maybe 2011 was a year where she lost a bunch of babies. She kept miscarrying. Or maybe she had a breakdown because of that. I don't know. But obviously that was meant to allude to something that we don't know about.
So they send Nancy out of Leanne sends Nancy out of the house, telling Sean, I did not have fun at your dinner party.
I did think it was funny for Leanne to just say, poof, you're gone. And she really was gone. That was it. Done, gone.
That was it. We won't see her again.
I thought it was interesting that Dorothy mentions insects when she's, reading Nancy and what it felt like when Nancy was abusing her mother. I bet you liked it. She felt small like an insect.
Mm-hmm.
That made me flash to the beginning of the season when Dorothy was trying to revive the moths.
Yeah.
All the insects in her room.
Me too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm with you. I thought the same thing.
Could we talk about Dorothy looking at the cameras and seeing what really happened that night? Kudos to Dorothy, like I said earlier, for picking up on what was going on with Leanne and having the mindset to look at the cameras and look for some evidence of what could have happened and learn the truth, or, part of it, that Leanne was attacked and that the danger is real, because we now see Dorothy, going around the house, checking windows and doors to make sure they're locked. I got way into the weeds on the timestamps from the camera. What I came up with that makes some sense to me is that one of the timestamps with regards to Leanne running out of the house and then coming back, they relate to the story of the Good Samaritan, that old parable about the Samaritans and the people of Jerusalem are enemies. The Samaritans are the poor people, and people in Jerusalem are wealthy. And a man from Jerusalem is walking down the road and gets attacked. And, a priest walks by and thinks, poor guy, and keeps going. And another guy walks by and thinks, poor guy, and keeps going. And then a Samaritan who should hate this person from Jerusalem walks by and stops and tends to his wounds and helps him. He's the Good Samaritan. which made me think of the homeless youths, you know, the poor, the dirty, the homeless, living in the park that help Leanne. They come to her rescue when none of the bougie neighbors do.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's a really great comparison to that parable. Absolutely. They end up being the ones to save her.
Right.
Yeah. So the youths, or the heart guy, approaches Leanne after the attack and after the couple have had their throats slit.
So
Leanne
quickly
says,
too. So quick and efficient. What are we doing? That
easily.
raises so many questions.
I was like, what?
Yeah, so Leanne says, you know, like, stay away from me, you know, what do you want? And he says, you know, we're on your side. So the couple, when they're attacking Leanne,
You will return to him!
You must reunite!
We know. You said no to him, and you're still here.
Are you with them?
Not anymore.
and that's it. So I took him to be the hook man that, you know, takes the eyes, the guy that Roscoe talks about when he's hypnotized by Natalie. But it could be anyone.
Yeah, there's definitely a him yet to be seen.
Yeah, we don't know enough about him, I don't think.
I think that it was for a while maybe meant to be presumed that like him meant God, but I think that it's clear that that is not what him means.
You know, I wondered if, like I said, I initially thought that him was the hook guy. And then I wondered maybe hook guy is just a, you know, like
another
a
go-between.
torturer. Yeah, like a scary figure that he uses to keep cult in check. But
the eyes, I also thought that maybe that was kind of metaphorical, like perhaps by saying that he takes the eye, that's when he's embodying them and he's looking through their eyes, or
Takes
someone
their
like
soul
Leanne.
or something
Yeah,
of that nature.
Yeah,
love that. I really like that interpretation.
and it really
But
matches up with when we notice the changes in their eyes, like that just seems like it could possibly really link up there to that meaning.
yeah, I really like that. But, you know, clear that the cult, what we've been saying for the past few weeks is the cult appears to be, you know, truly looking to Leanne for help and guidance. And how do we get out unscathed?
But they
implied that they did.
That's what I
How
mean.
do we stay safe? You know, you escaped him. You know, you're still here. You said no to him and you're still here.
But presumably so did they, if they're cutting people's throats. Like, Leanne has barely been a dent in anything, and they're like really after her. If I'm out there killing people in the street, like, does that not also
Why are
matter?
they worshiping her? Yeah, when they seem perfectly capable on their own.
And she doesn't need them either. I mean,
Right,
I guess she needed them in that instance, but like, if she's so powerful or whatever it might be, like,
Yeah.
she also has no intention of leaving Dorothy and Sean either. So I don't understand.
He just kind of dropped to his knees as though he was sort of at her service.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I look at it as they want or need something from her, not just we want to worship you, but we need your help with something. Like, we're still in danger from the cult.
it's just the killing is the thing that it was so easy.
Remember when Heart Guy approached Leanne in the street and said, I just want to talk to you?
Mm-hmm.
It's like she's got information that they want to be truly free of the cult.
Perhaps. Because in
That's
their eyes, they think maybe that she's truly free.
Like, how did she hide herself, maybe?
Yeah.
There's something we don't know. There's got to be something.
Well,
we don't know
exactly.
yet.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I was wondering too, it's like, can Leanne only reanimate things that were actually living at one point? Can she make things that are like, can she make a doll come to life, or does she have to have a body, or how is she able to, what does it really mean to be reborn? And I think that's a big question that hopefully will get answered at some point, is what does that actually mean?
And like, was she herself maybe reborn?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I don't think she had Jericho's body, so I don't know how that.
I do think it's possible that, Dorothy, Sean, Julian, maybe they are also reborn. They just don't know it.
And do we know for certain that Jericho's body was taken out of the house by the city or the county?
I mean, all we know is what we saw.
The figure in the hazmat suit.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was wondering, when Leanne and Dorothy were gardening and, and Dorothy paused, and I wondered if Dorothy was thinking about Jericho being buried. I wonder if Papa Turner got the baby out of the house and it was buried on the property, and that's how Leanne was able to reanimate it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's a wild theory, but
No, I think it's possible though. I think
that or somebody else.
Yeah, I think it's possible that the baby is on the premises somehow.
What if that's the case? Why?
Because if it was taken away by the city or the county, then there would be records, there would be a story, people would know. They wouldn't be able to hide the fact that they've, suddenly Jericho's.
I think that's what's weird about this too, y'all, because like, we know that there's wackadoodle time things happening. We know that the cell phone said it was September, but their dialogue says it's March. Weird things are happening, strange cuts, stuff like that. So that, I don't know, I guess that takes me back to like a lot of the things that we theorize about, how much of that really matters, because what is really going on here? And once we know what's really going on, a lot of these things, a lot of these like theories or, I think it's this or that, aren't going to matter anymore, because the answer is probably going to explain a lot of it.
Speculate, but I do like that we seem to be getting more answers.
Yeah.
It's going to take a whole season to learn what the youths are about, if they're, what they want, and if they're good or bad.
And then like another thing that I think we need to consider is that Leanne is some kind of force of evil, and she has powers, and she's been pulling the strings the entire time, and that's what's going on. I mean, we saw.
It feels that way too to me.
Yeah, like she shut the door pretty, loudly behind Nancy. We've seen her controlling things like that. So that begs the question of the original death of Jericho. When you watch that episode and you see how that door was open and then it just kind of goes shut, the way that it did, it makes me wonder if the whole thing was orchestrated from the very beginning.
By Leanne.
By Leanne.
But then what does she want with Dorothy? Like, does she just want to have a family? Like, she just got out of this weird situation.
Yeah.
Like, time?
Yeah. Like, I want to be needed by this woman and this family, and I'm going to insert myself.
She fixated on Dorothy at a very young age, and that fixation has not gone away. It's waxed and waned, but Dorothy is now being the mother that she wants her to be. As we saw in the other episode when Dorothy lactated on air, now Leanne has Dorothy at home with her, being a mom, stay-at-home mom, and Dorothy's starting to really watch out for Leanne. And I don't think that Leanne likes Sean I don't think she likes either one of them having attention being pulled from the family. But that brings the question of, why does Leanne want Sean to do the show?
Yeah.
That was going to be a star.
But that would be a big pull away from
they're bringing it to Philadelphia, though, so they would accommodate him in that way. I can't imagine that they wouldn't also accommodate him in other ways.
Yeah, maybe she feels it's his turn,
Oh, instead of Dorothy.
Right.
Oh.
Like it's his turn to get to be successful.
And like a reward.
But he is, though.
Yeah.
He's successful anyway.
Right.
But he's not a star.
Not in the way I want you to be, because he doesn't even seem to want it particularly. He's definitely more concerned with his family.
I think that's another mystery. What's important to Leanne?
Something else I noticed was that when Leanne was spared in the park, she looked up at the end, and there was definitely like this, kind of like a glow, a light coming from the sky, which reasonably would be the lights of the town. But it could also be alluding to there being another something that she was.
Lie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Sean does the same thing at the end of the episode.
That's right.
So I thought that was interesting too. It was just the same type of thing where they both looked up, and the shot, widened away from them. I probably wouldn't have even thought as much of it but when I saw Sean do the same thing, I was like, I wonder what that's about.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And Leanne gives Sean the information that, God did bring Jerica back.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Presumably, me, but she doesn't say it.
I will get there. Hard to say.
I'm still loving the season.
Yes, it's
Oh,
great.
it's fantastic.
And I think a big part of that is all the information that we're getting.
Yeah.
Right. Things are a little more clearer now. I hesitate
Moving
to say.
along faster pace. Yeah.
Right.
It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, for sure. We still have so many dangling questions.
Yeah. But the energy, it does feel like we're moving towards something. We're moving towards some bigger answers.
Yeah, for sure.
Last year, we knew we were going to get some direct answers about the cult and whatnot. But this year, it feels like maybe we're moving towards some bigger answers, which probably should anyway, since we're, heading into the final stretch. But yeah, I still do think that, we've got some multiple entities here. And yeah. All right, you guys, anything else that you can think of before we wrap up on this episode? I'm sure there's
petunias, because everyone wants to know more about petunias. The color, so every petunia, there are different colors, and each one has a different meaning. The one that Dorothy and Leanne were planting were purple.
Right.
And purple represents elegance and then enchantment. And that made me think of that line in this episode. Dorothy says, Sean's always been susceptible.
Yeah.
Enchantment, susceptibility, taking control over people.
Yeah.
Purple is also royalty, too.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting to see things shake out and kind of see where everybody's alignments are by the end of the season and how it sets up the final season.
It's a different episode. I'm excited.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. We had fun as always discussing it, and there will be more to come. So we appreciate you listening. Yes. And please, if you enjoy the podcast and you want to hear more, don't hesitate, subscribe, hit the bell so you get the notifications. Make sure you're following Servant Decoded on Twitter and TikTok so you get some of our silly little random videos, our Julian line of the week and things like that. And if you have any questions or stuff that you want us to discuss, please put them in the comments, send us messages. Ultimately, that's what we love about this is the conversation that this show generates is so rich, and we love what everybody brings to the table.
Collaborative obsession.
Exactly. All right, you guys.
Bye.
Till next week.
See you next time.